Over time, some games end up being forgotten, but there are games that survive the years and are well worth revisiting. With that in mind, I've compiled a list of 10 games for you to revisit in 2024, starting with a controversial game that didn't fare well at its launch but has aged like fine wine, and those who played it are clamoring for a sequel. I'm talking about Days Gone. Developed by Bin Studio and released in 2019, is an action survival game set in a post-apocalyptic world overrun by zombie-like creatures known as Freakers. Players take on the role of Deacon St. John, a biker and bounty hunter struggling to survive and find his missing wife, Sarah, in a ravaged landscape. Deacon, dealing with the pain of loss and the harshness of a ruined world, traverses the Farewell region of Oregon, facing hordes of Freakers, gangs of raiders, and cultists. The development of Days Gone was marked by the ambition to create a dynamic open world, where weather conditions and enemy behaviors constantly change, challenging the player to adapt. One of the game's highlights is its emotional narrative, exploring themes of loss, hope, and redemption. Deacon's motorcycle is not just a means of transportation, but an extension of his character, requiring constant maintenance and offering upgrades that directly impact gameplay. Assassin's Creed Unity, released by Ubisoft in 2014, transports players to the French Revolution, allowing them to experience the turmoil of Paris during this tumultuous period. Playing as Arnaud Dorian, a young assassin seeking revenge and justice, players explore one of the most detailed and vibrant representations of Paris ever seen in a video game. Arnaud's story is personal and intertwined with historical events, starting with the tragedy of his father's death and culminating in his fight against the Templars manipulating the revolution for their own ends. Unity was one of the first games in the series developed exclusively for the new generation of consoles at the time, enabling impressive graphics and more realistic physics. Ubisoft introduced a refined parkour system and cooperative missions, where up to 4 players can join forces to complete objectives. Despite its troubled launch, with numerous bugs and performance issues, Assassin's Creed Unity is remembered for its technical ambition and historical detail that enriches the narrative experience. Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen, from Capcom, is an expansion of the original Dragon's Dogma title, released in 2012. This action RPG features a vast and dangerous world where the player, known as the Arisen, must face a series of mythical creatures to reclaim their hearts stolen by a dragon. The story begins in the quiet village of Casardes, where a dragon attacks and rips out the protagonist's heart, starting their journey as the Arisen. The combat system is one of the game's strengths, allowing players to climb giant enemies and use a variety of magical and physical abilities. Dark Arisen adds a new area filled with even more intense challenges and valuable rewards. Capcom also improved gameplay and the user interface based on player feedback. The pawn system, which allows recruiting AI-controlled companions that can be shared with other players online, is an innovation that adds a layer of strategy to the game. Quantum Break, developed by Remedy Entertainment and released in 2016, is an intriguing fusion of video game and TV series. The story follows Jack Joyce, who gains time manipulation powers after a failed experiment at Riverport University. With abilities like stopping time and foreseeing future events, Jack must fight the sinister corporation Monarch Solutions, led by his former friend Paul Serene, who also gained time powers but is determined to use them to control the future. The development of Quantum Break was ambitious, with Remedy creating not only the game but also live-action episodes that interweave with the gameplay. Players' choices influence the narrative in both the game and the series, creating a unique interactive experience. Visually, Quantum Break impresses with its time distortion effects and detailed environments. Warhammer 40,000: Space Marine, developed by Relic Entertainment and released in 2011, is a third-person action game set in the vast and grim universe of Warhammer 40k. Players take on the role of Captain Titus, a space marine of the Ultramarines, tasked with defending the Forge world of Graia from an orc invasion. The story follows Titus as he battles hordes of orcs and chaos forces, using a combination of brutal melee combat and third-person shooting. The game's development focused on capturing the essence of the Warhammer 40k universe, with its oppressive atmosphere and constant brutality. Space Marine stands out for its fluid combat system, allowing players to seamlessly switch between melee attacks and gunfire, creating an intense and immersive experience. Additionally, the game's narrative explores the unwavering devotion of the Space Marines to the Emperor and the sacrifices they make for humanity. Spider-Man: Web of Shadows, developed by Shaba Games and released in 2008, offers a unique take on the Spider-Man universe, highlighting Peter Parker's internal struggle as he faces a symbiote invasion threatening New York City. The game allows players to switch between Spider-Man's classic suit and the black symbiote suit, each offering distinct abilities and combat styles. The story delves into Peter's relationships with his allies and enemies, offering multiple moral choices that affect the plot's progression and the city's fate. Web of Shadows was praised for its dynamic and acrobatic combat system, as well as the freedom of exploration provided by the sandbox version of New York. The inclusion of various characters from the Marvel Universe, such as Wolverine and Luke Cage, adds an extra layer of depth and interactivity to the narrative. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, released by Eidos Montreal in 2016, continues the story of Adam Jensen, an augmented human navigating a world divided between those with cybernetic implants and those who fear them. Set in 2029, the game tackles complex themes of discrimination, surveillance, and transhumanism. The story begins 2 years after the events of Deus Ex: Human Revolution, with Jensen working for Interpol while trying to dismantle a terrorist organization. The development of Mankind Divided focused on enhancing gameplay based on choices and consequences, offering multiple approaches to completing missions, whether through stealth, direct combat, or hacking. The game also introduces the city of Prague as a central hub, rich in detail and side missions that expand the lore of the Deus Ex universe. The engaging narrative and the depth of player choices are key elements that make Mankind Divided a memorable experience. Divinity: Original Sin 2, developed by Larian Studios and released in 2017, is a critically acclaimed fantasy RPG that offers unprecedented gameplay freedom and a rich, branching narrative. The story begins with the player and their companions, all marked by the forbidden magic known as Source, being imprisoned on the island of Fort Joy. As players escape and explore the world of Rivelin, they uncover a plot involving gods, demons, and the very nature of Source. The development of Original Sin 2 focused on creating a highly interactive turn-based tactical combat system where the environment can be used to the player's advantage or detriment. Multiplayer cooperation is one of the game's highlights, allowing up to 4 players to explore together, each with their own goals and stories. Larian Studios also implemented a robust level editor, allowing players to create and share their own adventures, enhancing the game's longevity and replayability. The Last Guardian, developed by Team ICO and released in 2016, is an action-adventure game that captures the essence of an unlikely friendship between a boy and a giant creature named Trico. The development of The Last Guardian was notoriously long, with the project initially announced in 2009 and facing several delays and platform changes before finally being released for the PlayStation 4. The game's story is told in a poetic and emotional manner as players guide the boy and Trico through a mysterious world filled with ancient ruins and dangers. The gameplay focuses on solving environmental puzzles that require cooperation between the boy and Trico, with the creature responding to commands and exhibiting realistic behaviors that create a sense of life. The minimalist narrative, evocative soundtrack, and detailed animation of Trico make The Last Guardian an unforgettable experience, emphasizing the emotional bond between the characters. Alpha Protocol, released by Obsidian Entertainment in 2010, is a spy RPG that puts players in the role of Michael Thornton, a CIA agent who becomes a rogue spy after a mission goes awry. The game is notable for its branching narrative approach, where players' choices significantly impact the story's progression and relationships with characters. Set in a world of international intrigue, Alpha Protocol allows players to use a variety of espionage skills, from hacking and hand-to-hand combat to diplomatic negotiations. The game's development faced technical challenges, but Obsidian managed to create a title that offers a unique RPG experience, with an emphasis on the consequences of player actions. The story unfolds in global locations such as Rome, Moscow, and Taipei, and is filled with twists and conspiracies that keep players engaged until the end. Shadow of the Colossus, developed by Team ICO and originally released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2, and later remastered for the PlayStation 4 in 2018, is widely considered a masterpiece of game design. Players take on the role of Wander, a young man who enters a forbidden land with the mission to defeat 16 giant colossi to bring a girl named Mono back to life. The story is told in a minimalist way but carries significant emotional weight, exploring themes of sacrifice, despair, and the consequences of Wander's actions. The gameplay stands out for the epic scale of the colossi battles, each of which is a walking puzzle that players must climb and defeat. The development of Shadow of the Colossus focused on creating an atmospheric and contemplative experience, with desolate landscapes and a soundtrack that perfectly complements Wander's solitary journey. The remastered version brought enhanced graphics and performance improvements while maintaining the essence of the original. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, developed by Naughty Dog and released in 2016, is the final chapter in the saga of Nathan Drake, the charismatic treasure hunter. The story begins with Nathan retired from his adventuring life, living quietly with his wife Elena. However, his long-lost brother, Sam, reappears asking for help to find a legendary pirate treasure, pulling Nathan back into the dangerous world of exploration. The development of Uncharted 4 was marked by meticulous polish and attention to detail, hallmarks of Naughty Dog. The game features impressive graphics, an engaging narrative, and spectacular action sequences. The gameplay combines intense shootouts, exploration of exotic environments, and puzzle solving, keeping players engaged from start to finish. Uncharted 4 also deepens the characters and their relationships, providing emotional moments and a satisfying conclusion to Nathan Drake's journey. Now, let me know which game on this list is worth revisiting. And if you know of any other game that should be on this list, leave it in the comments as well. Subscribe to the channel to not miss any content. A big hug and see you tomorrow.